Okay, go ahead. I thought I'd start by showing you the current construction going on. I know I showed it at the association, but I thought you might be interested in why again. So this is obviously a picture of Old Baldy. You can go ahead. One of the things, so we got this $750,000 grant, which is funded by the National Park Service, but it's monies that the Department of Natural Cultural Resources and the State Historic Preservation Office got after Hurricanes Florence and Michael and one other. The grant was to repair any damage to a structure that was on the National Register of Historic Places. That was the first. You had to be on the National Register or qualified to be on the National Register. The key to this grant was, it was to repair any damage that Florence caused. We had a piece about this big of mortar blow off the lighthouse during Florence. Otherwise, we didn't have any damage. The key to this grant was to also fund repairs and maintenance for resiliency for future natural disasters, like hurricanes. So that was the key, is like, how can we make this 200-plus-year-old structure more resilient in the future? Oh, can you go back one? So one of the things we try to include in the grant is what we call a glacis wall. Now, a glacis wall is shown in this 1893 photo by Herbert Bamber. And what they did was, I think it's because the contractor cheated, but that's just my guess. The foundation of Old Baldy is not as deep as was specified in the original designs. And that's where I think he cheated. And I think the water streamed off of the top of Old Baldy and created sort of this trench and was digging away at the earth underneath the lighthouse. So at some point, somebody came back and built this glacis wall. We don't know when, we don't know why, because it's not in any federal documentation. We also proved, this is a photo in about 1903 of the Boyd family, where you can clearly see this glacis wall. And it's going up to the first course of sandstone. Here is a picture about in the 70s of somebody with their shotgun and some beer, but you can see the rubble of the glacis wall. So it's falling apart at this point, but clearly we don't know when it was removed, because this is about in the 80s and there's nothing. So entire foundation with a little bit of subgrade foundation is completely exposed. And keep in mind, this foundation is sandstone. Okay, so next one. This was when it looked kind of nice. And this was, we believe, mid-1900s, 1990s, 92 to 95. Actually, the State Historic Preservation Office, keep your documentation, everybody. The State Historic Preservation Office approved this turf glacis wall. Now, again, it's to deflect water away from the foundation. So next slide. This is what it looks like now. It's totally eroding. Some genius put irrigation, see, in this mound. It's totally, it's inadequate, it's not working, and it's eroding. So we presented that we wanted to replace this glacis wall with this grant. Well, the state came back and said, that's all fine and good, but you need to prove to us that it really was there and what it was made of. We showed them all the pictures. But anyway, they required an architectural dig, so go ahead. So this is what we did. We hired a company, performed an architectural dig. They started by exposing the foundation, and they built a trench out. Go ahead. We found the wall. First we didn't dig deep enough, and then we did. So this is the footing that goes around the entire lighthouse. It's ballast stone and mortar. That's all we know currently. We haven't gotten a definitive report of what, when, and why. We know the why. We're not really sure when, and we're not really sure what it is. So we went ahead just to confirm. We dug another trench on the west wall. You can go ahead. Oh, this is just a trench. I don't have the other trench, but exactly the same distance from the foundation, we found the footings of the glacis wall. So then we go to the exterior. Now, a lot of people have said to me, oh, you just did this in 2016 and 17. You have to remember the exterior of Old Baldy is about 8,500 square feet of mortar. I would say in 2016 and 17, we repaired about 1,700 square feet. This time we're doing 1,300 square feet. The good news is what we did in 2016 and 17 is holding because of the material we use. It's a lime-based mortar that's used in historic preservation when you're doing masonry repairs. And it's also how it's applied. So we can go to the next one. You can see my buddies here. What they do is they go along each side of 8 sides of the lighthouse. They literally tap it to listen for hollow sounds where the mortar has separated from the handmade brick. They take it down all the way to the brick. They score the mortar where it's damaged, and you're left with the bare flat. So we found 1,700 square feet this time. Okay. And that's kind of what it looks like. And sometimes the bricks were bad, so they had to remove the bricks. Now, what they do is then they take a skim coat. They clean the brick with germicide just to make sure there's no microorganisms or anything on the brick. And then they do a skim coat and they score it. Okay. After the skim coat, they start a finish coats. Okay. And then what they do, and this also has to be done above 40 degrees, which we had some days we couldn't work. They cover it with burlap and they keep it wet. And that's to slow the curing process so it doesn't crack. Next slide. And this is the finished product. Now we've had all of these lime-based mortar is custom mixed in Pennsylvania, and the colors to get that modeling look have to be approved by the State Historic Preservation Office. Okay. We also have money to work on the interior. The interior was a mess. The interior also had a mortar finish to it. You can see where they're removing bricks, scoring the mortar, just trying to get the interior stabilized. Go ahead. These are just some pictures of what the interior looks like, where they had to remove the bricks. We're lucky we have a pallet of handmade bricks from the 1990s behind our building. And so we were able to use these handmade bricks to fill in. And what they're going to do finally after it's all done is use a product called Beak. And they're going to spray it on the entire interior, which is, the product is meant to stabilize the brick and the mortar and to stop any further deterioration in time. So we don't have enough money to order that entire interior, but you'll see an increase, or hopefully the interior will cease to continue to flake and deteriorate. Go ahead. Okay, on to the project. We have hired a fundraising capital development company to assist us. They started January 1st. If anybody gets a phone call from them, the company's name is CapDev. They intend to, they've already hit the ground running. We're actually going to the state looking for some funding. We understand there's some funding available on the state level. If you hear from them, they're really right now just looking for opinions. We gave them a list of people to call and talk to sort of, get a groundswell of agreement on this project and make a case why we need it. If anybody's been to my office, you know why we need it. So this is a site plan of the whole village area. You can go to the next slide. I don't know how, this here is Balstone Alley, Lighthouse Wine. This is our lot line of the land that was donated to us by the cracks. We're having a lot of trouble is solvable with the current site plan. You can see, believe it or not, this property has a lot of topography. It's not easy. It also has a large amount of specimen trees that obviously we're going to keep. We tried to keep the entrance right here because it provides us a way to enter on grade because of the topography. And that was important to us for ADA compliance. Okay, you can go to the next. So I'm going to show you two site plans. And, obviously this involves the whole neighborhood, the association, the chapel, the village. This one, neither one of these are set in stone because I'll show you the problems. This is a huge rise here. And parking obviously is, you would enter up here. You have a handicap drop off on grade here. You have some parking here, which would be handicap, and then you would exit here. Then we also have parking, head-end parking on Balstone Alley. The walkway, and this again is something, we did hire Brian Dinetz to help us with the landscape and the civil engineering. Well, Bruce Merrick's helping us too. This is one of the questions we're going to have for the future, is where should that walkway connect in here? Which way do we want the pedestrians to walk from the ferry and the employees, guests, day visitors? Do we want them to go over the bridge? Do we want them to go down the sandy path? Or do we want them eventually to go on the street? And that has a lot to do with this walkway. Because as a day visitor, an employee, or just somebody, taking a walk, they would walk right through here. Not too much further than they used to. You can go to the next one. So here is another option where there were only 3 parking spaces here, parking on the interior facing this way. But what we also just added the other day, and I think that this could be beneficial. This is our property line. But to add some parking here where a tram could swing in, drop people off, sort of a little pull off. And you can park here too. But the question that we have for the village eventually is, do we want to add more head-in parking here? Now, what you see here is we have about 12 parking spaces on the street now. Our vehicles don't matter because our vehicles are going to park in here. But for guests, and not just for our guests. If you go around lunchtime in the summer, they're parked all up and down the street to go to the post office. They're parked for Old Baldy. So I think that our goal should be to get as much parking off of Lighthouse Wine as we can, particularly in those narrow areas. Where you can't, if you have parking, it's, I think there's a big live oak right there. If you have people parking there, you can't get an emergency vehicle through. So I would ask that the village think about putting some head-in parking along the east side of Balston Alley in their future plan. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, that has been discussed previously, conceptually wise, that with regards to trying, like you said, have people not parking on Lighthouse Wine, but within a certain stretch where there's the curb cut
Yes,
that allows for it.
yes,
And also talking about having some access to IPC from Ballastone Alley.
yes.
And the obvious would be to put parking there to promote that.
Yes, and our goal was to get more parking on site than we currently have. But if you're talking about a wedding on the weekends or an event at our pavilion, you still, 50, 60.
And a lot of times they use the media. They're already doing.
Yeah,
already
they're already
doing it.
doing that. In Ballastone, yeah, they're already doing that. And parking down here. So parking's an issue and we've tried to, we still have a ways to go on this. To try to agree, but I feel like we've solved the parking. Which was, like I say, one of our main goals. They did draw.
How much more parking do you have than what you currently have?
Probably a dozen more. In this, we probably have a dozen now on the street and we probably have a dozen right here. Or maybe 10 or 12 more that we have now.
Effectively doubling the parking.
Yeah.
So
How much bigger is the new structure than the existing?
I mean, 10 times.
So 10 times the structure.
Yeah, I don't,
we have much more, double the parking.
yeah, the majority,
Yes.
quite frankly, the majority of our visitors come on foot. Even if they intend to rent a car for the day, they come to see us first.
Sure.
And then they go back and rent a car. So,
But Chris, if you have an event at your pavilion
uh-huh,
that a lot of islanders are coming for,
uh-huh.
where are they all gonna park?
Well, they're gonna
Like
park
church Sunday.
here and then on the street. Yeah, or if we could provide,
I mean, because you're already having a lot of those events,
yes,
so they're already having.
they're already parking
Right.
on the street.
And we did also talk conceptually wise about having head-in parking angled into the median.
Yes,
But knowing that whatever trees are in there, we're obviously gonna protect those, but you
right.
could double up on both sides in the median with head-in angled parking.
For 6 and 8 seat golf cart.
So,
I think that's, I mean,
Just one of the.
Yeah, yeah.
The cars,
No,
you need to mark
you're right there.
longer cars.
Yeah.
and that's what I said conceptually.
Right. We can work this stuff.
Now, we were gonna draw it in, and I insisted that we shouldn't be designing things on other people's property. So we didn't draw it in, but certainly we can. Like I said, we've been working with Brian Genas to have worked on the master plan because we thought that would be a good match.
so Chris, of the new building, roughly what percentage or what area is storage?
Storage.
Versus how much would be open to
The public,
the public?
the entire first floor is open to the public,
Public, right,
with the exception of a small area in the back that's storage for the gift store.
okay,
So, yeah,
okay,
yeah, I mean, we will have a gallery you know, what do we have now, 200 square feet? I have about 1,200.
Okay.
1,000 square feet of gallery, museum space, which is this entire wing over here. This is gift store, reception desk. Again, you know, we consider it, we left a lot of area for reception desk, even though it's also like gift shop checkout. Because we do feel like the welcome wagon. And we do want this building to feel like the entrance to the island in terms of guests and visitors and, you know, vacationers or even property owners. They come to us, they ask us a lot of questions. So the lobby area is pretty substantial. I didn't include any of that because we, but I do have a video at the end to show you.
Couple of observations. I think it'd be helpful whenever you're having this kind of conversation, to have Chip include other buildings that are planned. So when you look at Village Hall, the new Village Hall, there's a great deal of parking associated with the new Village Hall
Behind here,
that will not be used on Saturdays and Sundays.
Right.
Talking about weddings and big events there.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at across the street, the bridge lots that Chad has, you know, as part of his project turning over to Sharpview.
right.
You know, when you're looking at how are people, you said most of the people are coming from the ferry when they're coming. Well, they gotta cut through those bridge lots, and so your question about where does that sidewalk go? Just a suggestion, yeah, I'd be careful ever saying,
Right.
got it solved, because there's a whole lot of things.
That's not our
We don't
land.
have it solved,
That's not our land.
but we need to look at it, and Brian's aware of that,
Oh,
and Chip is aware of it.
absolutely, yeah,
and
they're
so-
all aware.
I just think that, you know,
I just don't think anything on that, other than the Village Hall design is kind of set in stone going this
it
direction.
isn't, but there's some variables that, you know, you should be, you know. He knows.
Yeah, well, and to me, it almost seems like it'd be nice to have a sidewalk coming from the ferry around that parking area, you know, and then coming in this way. I don't know. Everybody, you know, I always said, and I don't know why people put sidewalks in, because what you need to do is see where the grass wears and just put the sidewalk there. Because everybody's gonna find their own little shortcut to everywhere.
I mean, that was the walking path before, it's where
Yeah.
people have gravitated towards.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of what they do on college campuses.
College campuses, right, these quads, they have these sidewalks, and then all of a sudden, there's all these bare paths, so. Okay, you can go ahead. So this, if you just click it, this is a video that we made about the project and about trying to get people to think of the need and. Sorry, you have to look at me.
The Old Baldy Foundation was established on Baldy Island, North Carolina in 1985 to preserve Old Baldy Lighthouse. In the early days, the primary mission was restoring the lighthouse so that visitors could safely climb to the top. 15 years later, the foundation built a replica lighthouse keeper's cottage to serve as the Smith Island Museum of History, gift shops, and book resort, as well as staff offices. Fast forward to today, and this 4,000 square foot building functions as a front door for 35 annual.
40 years ago, no one could have imagined the number of visitors the lighthouse currently sees. With the keeper's cottage bursting at the seams and no more room for displays, most of the foundation's artifacts are stored out of sight in an island warehouse. That's really a shame.
Over the past decade, the foundation searched for the ideal spot for a campus expansion that would include an interpretive center where we could present more of our collection and offer a richer visitor. After ruling out other options, we identified a perfect location across the 1903 from the event. Baldy Foundation President Mark Track and his wife Robin recently purchased the site from Baldy Limited and have generously donated to the foundation.
With the right location secured, the foundation turned its attention to the campus site design. One of the project's main goals is to properly display the rare first-order Fresnel lens of the Cape Fear Light, which stood on Baldy from 1903 till 1958.
The lens is so large, it has to be displayed in a two-story setting. It has to be protected from sunlight and kept in a climate-controlled environment. Visitors to the new interpretive center will enter a winding gallery that leads to the Fresnel lens as the dramatic final exhibit.
Along with the lens, dozens of other artifacts will be displayed for the very first time. Pottery shards from the dig formed on the lighthouse grounds, a Revolutionary War era button of British officers found near Old Baldy, a document signed by then Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson commissioning Baldy's original lighthouse, and a can that held gunpowder for a Lyle gun that helps rescue hundreds of stranded sailors on flying shoals. And the list goes on.
In addition to bringing artifacts out of storage, the Interpretive Center will improve the presentation of objects that are already on display. The rudder of the La Rosa de Balboa, a Spanish galleon that shipwrecked off the shore of Baldy in 1804, is in the dark inside the lighthouse. It's very hard to see and very difficult to interpret.
Beyond transforming our gallery space, an expanded campus will support educational goals for children and seniors. The foundation annually hosts around 800 fourth graders from throughout the Lower Cape Fear region through its Lighthouse Learners Program, in addition to numerous age 55 and up groups.
We'll be able to paint a more complete picture of the Lower Cape Fear and its historical importance for all of us. Along with the exhibit gallery, the lower level of the Interpretive Center will house an expanded gift shop and bookstore. Upstairs will be staff offices and meeting space. Our plan is to build the event pavilion first. It will link the existing lighthouse grounds with the new campus. We envision it as a much needed gathering space, foundation events, school field trips, community gatherings, and private receptions. Our plans also include a proctor that will accommodate staff, guest lecturers, interns, and researchers. With exhibits mostly displayed in the Interpretive Center, the first floor of the Keeper's Cottage can be turned into a replica dwelling. And the cottage's attic space will be freed up to become a library and research room for interns and visiting scholars.
Identifying an architect who could take on the campus design is no small task. In the end, the foundation chose Chip Hemingway, a Wilmington architect with a 25-year track record. His portfolio includes many North Carolina museums and exhibit spaces: Jeanette's Pier Aquarium in Nags Head, the Pine Island Sanctuary in Corolla, the North Carolina Aquarium on Roanoke Island, and the restoration of the Arctic Life Saving Station. The combination we were looking for was modern museum gallery meets the coastal vernacular design of the island office. Chip successfully merged these two ideas. With preliminary plans in hand, we're now ready to hit the ground running with our fundraising.
Baldy is one of only 2 privately owned lighthouses in the state. It relies on admission fees, gift shop sales, special events, grants, and most critically, donations. Our campus expansion will rely on donations by private individuals. In all, we estimate the entire project will cost around $5 million and will take 5 years to complete. We hope to break ground on the event by the end of 2020.
We ask folks to please consider a gift to the Old Baldy Foundation. Naming opportunities for various components will be offered to larger scale donors, but all gifts are appreciated and no gift is too small.
As the oldest standing lighthouse in North Carolina, Old Baldy is not just a treasure of Boston Island, but a treasure of the entire state. We thank everyone in advance for helping us preserve and share the rich history of our Cape Fear from generations to come.
Learn how you can support the Old Baldy Foundation campus expansion at oldbaldy.org.
Thanks for suffering through that. Any questions or?
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank